This episode of the Nerf Herder Council is brought to you by Audible. Visit audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download.
Hi, this is Joseph Williams, son of John Williams, and you are watching the Nerf Herder Council.
Why, you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking Nerf herder!
You can't use that word! Only we can use that word!
You're tuned in to the Nerf Herder Council, your source for Star Wars opinion, conversation, and debate. Featuring your hosts, JT.
Stormtrooper armor deflects everything except Orback hooves. They're like a horse version of Thomas the Tank Engine.
AJ.
Yeah, Rebels is a lot like our show, where we think we have a good idea and then it just fails in execution.
On this episode of the Nerf Herder Council, we're giving our review of Disney's divisive new show, The Acolyte. And we're bringing in some special guests, Matt Sherrick and Cris Macht from the Machtails From The Cantina podcast. This is the Nerf Herder Council. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. I am your host, JT. We are live on Facebook and YouTube, as well as the Facebook page and YouTube channel of the Virtual Cantina Network. We are live at those locations every other Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget, if you are watching on either of the YouTube channels, don't forget to click like, click subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. As always, guys, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. If you would like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you would like to get awesome Virtual Cantina Network swag, just go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. Without further ado, let me bring on my esteemed co-host, the most punctual man that I know. He was finally early to a show today. So here he is. Nice job. Nice job. Got all the stuff going.
Nice intro there, bud.
There we go. So I stumbled. I would give you credit where credit's due. So, yeah, good to see you. It was nice having a week off a couple weeks ago. We had a good time over here at my place grilling and just actually having some relaxing family time. It was much needed. It was fun.
Yeah, as much as I love the show, sometimes those Wednesdays don't lay out so well on the schedule, you know? So it was nice to get just one of them off, right ahead of the holiday. So who wants to, quote, work on a holiday night? So
right. Yeah. Luke has spoken. Good to see you, May. Says hello there. Kale McLeish, always good to see you, May. Says sup, Drakes. Good to see you, brother. Always good to hang out with you. Yeah, so we are definitely going to be doing some, Acolyte talk. But before we get to that real quick, I just want to mention, I'm kind of glad the way this all laid out because I was really looking forward to talking about some Deadpool. And we will be doing that in 2 weeks. So for anybody who saw us not change the thumbnail, which was 100% my fault until yesterday, yeah, we will be talking Deadpool in 2 weeks. So we're going to get into the trilogy as a whole. We will have seen the new Deadpool film, which is, I'm sure, going to be awesome because it's Deadpool. Deadpool's like pizza. Even if it's not great, it's awesome. So, yeah, so we're going to be doing that in a couple weeks. But tonight, we are talking Acolyte. And this should be interesting because I've got some thoughts, not nearly as strong as the thoughts I may have put out there at the beginning of the last show.
Now is a good time to say, by the way, that the views of the Nerf Herder Council do not necessarily reflect those of the Virtual Cantina Network. There's probably going to be some bad language here tonight, and we might hit on a few topics that might trigger a few people. In fact, can I just make this disclaimer right off the bat? We, especially in light of events in the U.S. over the weekend, we got to like tone things down a little bit. So we're gonna get into the show and we're gonna voice our true opinions. But anything about like, you know, woke Star Wars or all that agenda political crap, let's just set that to the side. Okay. We're just going to talk about the show. We're in full support of anyone feeling any way they want to feel. And I don't want to hear any crap from anyone about lesbian witches or woke agendas or any of that. Let's just keep it to this show, to Star Wars, and forget everything else that's going on or any other larger themes or subtext that might be going on.
I like that. Real quick, Miranda, good to see you. AJ's familiar with Miranda. The power of one, the power of two, the power of many. Let's see, that almost sounds like Star Trek to me. I have to admit, I was like, wait a minute, isn't that kind of like, you know, the needs of the one outweigh the needs of the, you know, the few or the whatever the hell it is. So that was kind of my thought.
Power of many.
The song.
Yeah.
Why'd you have to remind me? Oh, God. Oh, man.
It's on my list of gripes.
Look at Kale. All right. One comment, Kale, and then we got to get to, we have some guests coming on here. So Kale says, being that I'm Australian, can we avoid all the political agenda stuff? Because we just witnessed the death of the funniest satirical band on Aussie soil. Okay. Hot take number one, Tenacious D is so unbelievably overrated and unfunny. It's, you know, I feel like, you know, Australia, Kyle Gass did them a favor by getting the rest of that tour canceled. Kale, don't you think it kind of sucks that like of all the tours you guys get, you get none of the bands you like, you get stuck with Tenacious D? Like, that's just sad. So anyway, that's my political take for the night. Ooh, hot take. All right, let's get to it. So we have a couple of special guests coming onto the show tonight. One of them will be on a little bit later. But first up, we have a very good friend of mine, from Lima, where I actually perform in the cover band. And he's been on the show before. And for somebody who doesn't do a podcast or doesn't do any like public appearance type stuff like radio, you know, band, whatever, I thought he sounded great and, you know, had some great opinions. So we're bringing him back. It is my good friend, Mr. Matt Sherrick. What's up, dude?
What's up, fellas?
Not too much. This is this
ready to talk this
good, man.
Very divisive show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
that is.
So I mean, let's start there. Okay, so I mean,
Pardon
AJ
the live
and I
production. I'm just going to play with something here for real quick, see if this works.
There
we go. There we go.
Too much. Okay.
Look at that. Just wait till we have a fourth one on. You're gonna have to mess with it again. So I know that, you know, Sherrick, you and I had talked about the show as it was going. You know, every week we kind of texted a little bit about it.
Yep.
So Sean Hines. What's up, man? Sean Hines says Trinity wiped her ass with the power of many. Nice, man. Trinity went out like Boba Fett or freaking Phasma, dude. That sucked.
It was sad.
But yeah. So, what were your initial opinions of the show? Because I know, like mine, you know, full disclosure before we get into details, mine kind of fluctuate. But so what? How did your enjoyment of the show either increase or decrease, or what was your kind of, you know, for lack of a better term, journey with this show?
I mean, I don't think the fight scenes ever let me down. Like any of the lightsaber battles, I loved the actual, you know, hand-to-hand combat, like getting thrown in there. It was all great. Reminded me of like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon style a little bit, you know. What upset me is that it seemed like all the actors that drew me to the show got killed. And
yeah.
You know, and look, I get like there's got to be some kind of wow factor, you know, but you know, like you could have let Jackie live, you know what I mean? Like let one of them live, but it is what it is, you know. I mean, I never watched The Good Place, so I wasn't excited for Manny, but with what he became in the show, took him to the top for me. And like, I definitely want to see that character more and see more of his story and Vanestra's, you know, but, I think for me, you know, like the highs were the fighting, some of the story, you know, like I didn't mind the witches. I thought some of that was, you know, good story. I feel like maybe they could have kept him the Witches of Dathomir or something instead of creating a whole nother coven.
Yeah.
But I mean, with any show, dude, there's things I would have done different, right? Nothing's going to be exactly what you anticipated. But I do think I would have just done some things a little differently. I also think this show may have changed a lot from how it was originally conceived to what they let them do. Because the way I got it from the beginning was this is going to be 100% Sith story. And then I feel like that was what we got was a portion of it was a Sith story. And season, if they were to do a season 2, would now be the Sith story.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that. That's I mean, it did real quick on it. Lucas spoke and definitely agrees with you. He says, the fight choreography was the highlight of the series for me. Some of my favorite fights since the prequels. Yeah, I think that goes without saying. I think we can all agree that there was some awesome like hand-to-hand combat in this one. And it was, and you know, even just saying hand-to-hand, I mean, they actually did some stuff where it wasn't just use the Force, use the lightsaber. Like there was actually kind of like some, you know, martial arts type stuff, which was cool. But I think I might agree with you a little bit saying that it changed somewhat because on the last episode, I was just all about it and, you know, rah, rah, rah. And I have to admit, like the last couple of episodes, I was kind of like, okay. I don't dislike it. I think it's good. I still really enjoyed it. But I think where it ended up from where I thought it was going, I wasn't as thrilled with it as I started out being. So I'm wondering if it did kind of change along the way. I mean, like I said, that being said, though, I still think it's great, but
I don't know about that because I heard that the story pitch that got the show greenlit was Kill Bill meets Frozen.
This is true. I did hear that.
Yeah. So you've got, you know, the story of the sisters. There's your Frozen, and Kill Bill is obviously, you know, killing all the Jedi, getting revenge. So I feel like the core is actually pretty true to the original pitch. Now I remember, like you saying, there was definitely a lot of rumblings early on in the process before the show came out saying that, you know, we're finally going to see a story told from the point of view of the Sith. And we really didn't. In fact, we never even got an admission that they were Sith. We got the line that says, a Jedi like you might call me Sith, but that doesn't mean that I am.
Yeah. But how many times have we seen that now, if you think about it? Think about how many times like we've made an assumption about something that they're putting out and it's completely, you know, ass backwards. You know, I mean, I think that's just basically what we're going to get now. Like, just stop guessing. You're not going to be right. And just wait for it to come out. Like, enjoy it when it happens, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys
I get marketing has to build hype, but at the same time, if you market it as one thing and then don't deliver that thing, then you run a different problem. You know, because you people, especially now with the fandom, they have expectations, they presuppose, and they write their own story, and then they get mad if you don't deliver that exact story.
Dude, isn't it okay? Real quick, and Sherrick, remember your point. Sorry to cut you off, but isn't it? I was actually just thinking about this. Is there not now a fully established pattern that has not been broken in years, where it's new property is announced, fan base goes crazy, I'm gonna love it, hype builds, property comes out, this is the biggest piece of shit ever. Years later, I kind of like it. Yeah. I mean, it's like. It's clockwork anymore. It's absolute clockwork.
It's almost like I wish they would stop announcing stuff so soon and just a couple months before it's going to come out, release a trailer. You know?
Right?
Okay, that is true. I am so tired of them announcing film projects and then like we don't even have anything officially on the slate right now. Like they haven't gone in front of cameras or anything with the Daisy Ridley film. There's like still like 10 movies floating out there, and I think maybe 2 might actually show up on the screen at some point.
Yeah. All right, so Cale McLeish, in terms of people dying in the show, the Kill Bill aspect, he says, I mean, all of 3 people survived, and 2 of them are the same person, so I don't know that even counts. And then he also says, dude didn't even get a name. End of the show, he's still the stranger. I don't think the name Khmer was ever said. I don't remember it. I'm not good with the names of things like that, though. I kind of, as I've said on the show before, Cale, and you and I have talked about this, like, I see it the first time and my dumb brain goes, "Ooh, it's new Star Wars, yay!" And then I go back later and then remember stuff. But yeah, I don't.
One of those things where like it was in the subtitles.
Yeah,
you get a lot of crap from reading subtitles. Apparently, like character names.
I'm just sitting here trying to rack my brain. Like, I don't think they did.
Right? Yeah, dude, I keep subtitles on all the time now because I've found that out, AJ. And I mean, Matt, I don't know about you, but like I've missed stuff, and especially with me not hearing so well. And if I put it at a volume I can hear, my wife is like, God damn, it's loud. So I have to turn it down to normal people level, at which point I need subtitles or else I can't hear half what's going on. Right. So, all right, Matt. So you had a point that we kind of like.
Well, hopefully I'm not throwing something out there that's like screws up the order of conversation, but how were you guys? How did you feel about the sequence of the episodes and how they played out? Would you have organized them a little different?
Oh yeah, that totally fucks up the sequence. Let's do that later. No, just kidding. Yeah, dude, you've seen the show before. We just ramble. There is no sequence.
I'll be honest. I'm trying to come up with a script. I'm going to do a pre-record YouTube video, probably this weekend, and I'm trying not to just have it be a list of complaints, but that would be part of them for me.
You didn't like the
episodes
order.
Was a real head scratcher for me. I don't feel like the way they chopped it up and dipped back into the past and then flash forward again. I don't think it really helped the story at all. I thought it was really weird, actually, how like the 7th episode was all flashback. It's like you could just cut straight from the end of 6 to the beginning of 8, and it's the same exact moment. Like there wasn't a framing device to say like, let's go back and tell this or anything like that. It's just like, no, we're just going to tell a whole different subplot right here.
And they didn't, to me, do the full Rashomon effect either. They didn't do it exactly how it should have been done.
Wow.
No, okay. I thought, we saw everything play out in the 3rd episode, and I thought the 7th episode would show an entirely different version of events, but it was really just the special edition of events. It was like expanded scenes, director's cut.
Right.
There was a lot of episode 3 that didn't make sense to me. And I'm like, well, okay, that's one jilted point of view, and we'll see a different point of view that paints it in a different light, like Last Jedi did with the flashback to Luke and Kylo. Luke and Ben at the time. And it didn't. And I was like, I thought that was a huge missed opportunity, personally.
Well, all right, Luke has spoken, says, for me, I still feel the same way I felt 2 weeks ago. It's pretty middle of the road for me. Maybe it'll improve on rewatch, but for now, it's just average with some great moments in there. All right.
JT, I wanted to get your take on that, actually, because, this is one of those things as a mystery that, you really got to get the whole story before you can form an opinion on it. And I've went on record previously as saying like this should either have been a longer season or a movie. This was like the exact wrong length.
I agree.
Do you feel, JT, that on rewatch being able to binge it now instead of getting one chapter a week, especially with the awkward cuts at the end of every episode, not being like organic stopping points in some cases, do you think it's going to improve?
I don't know about improve. I mean, to be honest, it kind of ties into your, the previous question. I didn't have a problem with the sequence of the episodes. The only thing I will say is I would agree with the fact that episode 7 almost felt superfluous because you didn't really get anything extra. Except for the fact that, he saved OSHA instead. Okay. But we kind of, that was, to me, it was implied. It wasn't anything like earth shattering.
And you got the Wookiee fight.
Yeah. That was cool. It was, I don't know.
But that's just a thing to see. That's not like a critical story beat,
Yeah. So I didn't have a problem. I didn't have a problem with the sequence in the episodes in terms of quality and like it being like too short or too long. Like it's, or it should have been a movie or should have been a longer series. I don't know. It felt fine to me, but then again, I kind of I mean, when you're talking about a show where each episode is like, 19 minutes long and you've got 8 of them, know.
And at that point, why they're doing it, right? Like, how many weeks can we get viewers back on the streaming service, right? Because it's like, why didn't you just have 6 longer episodes?
Mm-hmm.
Or a 2 or 3 hour
do
movie.
a season of television. Yeah, you can't do 6 longer episodes without calling it a miniseries, and they want to leave this open ended for a renewal. So I think they felt like they had to draw it out to more episodes just to make it feel like a season.
By the way, I'm never going to give up on the stupidity of the forever and a day long credits in these Disney shows.
It's almost as long as the episode,
dude. The thing that drove me insane was God, what. I'm drawing a blank. What show was it? The one with the prison break. That was that? It was Andor, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Where they actually did have like a post credit scene. And you're like, are you kidding me? Now you're going to do that? You're going to make me fast forward through like the Czechoslovakian credits just to like, seriously?
At least give us the skip credits button like they do on all the MCU films.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, I mean, I was fine with it because I think probably because I've come to accept how they're presenting the stuff to us now. But also, I think for me, and I'm probably very much in a minority on this, I don't think I'm still over the fact that we're getting live action Star Wars. To me, it's just another movie, but this just got really spread out longer, so I get more stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like I'm not really one to complain about that, and I think the episode lengths were pretty good. I don't like when in Mando when they literally have like 23-minute episodes or like, it's like a sitcom length. I'm like, what the fuck is that? I loved the episode lengths on Kenobi because it was like almost like a short film each episode. So I thought that was cool. So yeah, I didn't really have many complaints about it in those terms, AJ, but Kale, it says, agreed. Definitely could have been a movie, but I guess with going for chapters, they wanted the power of many.
So I have a burning question that I haven't asked you yet,
what they got with the casting was the power of Manny Jacinto as the stranger.
Ever since that song happened, that's the way it always played out in my head, especially after everybody was talking about his biceps.
Oh God. Yeah. What was that? I kept seeing all these people online like, oh, we finally got a hot Sith. Look at the hot Sith. I was like, wow. Okay. I would not have thought that would have been like a hot button topic, but I guess here we are. So, all right. So you had a burning question, you said.
Yeah. I won't bring up the words you hate so you don't kick me off the stream. But where would this fall in line with Ahsoka for you?
Oh, this is far, far ahead of Ahsoka.
I feel like it's the same for me too.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say far ahead, but it's definitely ahead.
Yeah, I mean, for me, yep. Luke has spoken. I'm with you. He says, I still can't believe we've been getting live action Star Wars shows for almost 5 years now. Still blows my mind. Yeah, it feels like we just got like Mando season 1 like 2 years ago, doesn't it? Like that's crazy.
I can't believe I thought it couldn't get much more divisive than The Last Jedi, and if I go online every week and watch the reviews to get everybody's opinions, and wow, I'll go from one podcast that loves it and one that hates it.
Yeah. I don't think Disney cares, honestly.
No, I don't either.
It's a conversation starter either way.
Either way, they're getting
tuning in. That's all viewers. They care about.
Yeah, even the people that hate it are watching it.
Well, I mean, dude, let's bring it up right now then, since we're talking about like getting people to view it and keep going. I mean, let's face it. How many people do you think don't like this show, but as soon as they announce season 2 are going to be all in and they're going to be like, I'm going to hate it, but I'm going to watch anyway, solely because we got a 3-second viewing of Plagueis. Plagueis is finally in live action. I mean, people are going to watch it, and then they're going to bitch that it wasn't like the book. And I mean, we can already predict how it's going to go, but people are going to watch for. I mean, dude, let's face it. I mean, both of you guys, weren't you kind of watching to see if they would finally bring Plagueis into live action in this series because it's in the High Republic. There's dark side stuff everywhere. Weren't you kind of thinking like, okay, well, this is kind of, seems like a perfect place for it to happen. Were you expecting it like I was?
I was expecting, most likely Plagueis, or Tenebris, somebody, because of the time period and where we're at, like just like we were talking the other day or yesterday or earlier about Yoda being there around at the same time. It
I'll
just
be honest,
made
I got
sense.
swerved.
What?
Really?
I got swerved because two reasons. First, based on the timeline, I thought that he would have shown up or there would have been a mention of him sooner. When we got the stranger instead, I was like, okay, that's our big bad. Like, he's probably not the master. I did predict that, but I didn't think that they were going to go to Plagueis because I'm just thinking of the timeline in general. I'm like, I don't know if that really lines up with anything, and especially if they're going to canonize the book. And the other reason that I got swerved was because they kept on playing the damn Kylo Ren theme. So I thought this was a tease for Knights of Ren.
I think I have an idea on the reason of that, but I'll wait to
Yeah. Sherrick has an idea about that. Real quick, Kale McLeish says he's just a face in a cave. I didn't see any confirmation. Kale, if you look up pictures of Plagueis from like comics and books and stuff like that, and then go look up pictures of the dude in the cave, some people have lightened it. It is 100% Plagueis. And when I looked it up this morning, like I looked it up last night as I was watching it, I'm like, is that Plagueis in the Acolyte? And nothing really came up. This morning when I Googled that, everything came up and said, yes, it's Plagueis. And Leslie Headland came out and, pretty much confirmed it as well. So, yeah, I didn't get swerved. I figured that would be the case. You know what's really interesting, though? When I looked up Plagueis last night, again, while the show was going on, to try and find out like when he was born, Wikipedia did not have a date of birth. So it's not like you could go to Wikipedia and be like, oh, well, this is bullshit, man. Like, he wasn't born until a few years after this. Like, no, they did not list a date of birth for him. And they don't have to continue the story. They don't even have to go right into the Plagueis storyline now, because it is several years. I mean, it's 100 years before Palpatine and all that. So you're talking about like 80, 70 years to go. This could just be him, right at, maybe he's still working for Tenebris. Is that's his master, right? Did I get that right?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, maybe he's still working with Tenebris. I mean, who knows? But, you know what's outstanding is if you go to audibletrial.com/NHC for a 30-day trial and a free audio download, you can get the fantastic audiobook performance of Darth Plagueis, the book that they better damn well not steamroll with new canon. Yeah, I will say, and jumping on that, Sherrick, if you haven't read that or listened to the audiobook, it's actually it's incredible. And AJ and I have mentioned it on the show before for anybody listening or watching for our audio viewers out there. And I know we've kind of beaten this one to death a couple times, but it really is that good. It's basically episode 0. And AJ's right. There's so much great stuff in there that if they kind of shit on it to kind of twist that story into their own means, that's not going to be good. So, all right.
So here's how Plagueis appeared previously in quote Legends continuity. So that's pretty obvious right there.
Yeah.
That's pretty much a 1-to-1, and I can present the appearance from the show lightened up like you were talking about, JT.
Yeah. That's like the first thing that popped up when
and there's, so side by side. Yeah, they're definitely, if it's not him, like, that's a troll job on another level.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not Plagueis. Yeah. That's Darth. That's Darth Tim. I don't know.
Darth Frank. There we are with our awesome names again.
Let me get your guys' opinion about something, because this is something I've been pondering in my head earlier.
Okay.
Right now we think he's the stranger's master, right? What if he's
Sorry,
not?
I'm nodding for all of our audio viewers.
Right. What if he's not, right? And he's spying on him and her. Because why would he be creeping out from behind the wall You know, if Chimera knows he's there,
Yeah.
what if he's watching him so that he can lead him to what he really wants?
Oh,
Well-
crap. That's a great one.
Well, see, I think if that's what the way they would go, it would be something different than that, because I think he would be creeping on them, because the whole basis of the Plagueis story is him working on cloning and
Right.
like trying to cheat death. Like that's, you know,
But we never hear the
it's
stranger talk about his master.
well, that's what I'm saying though. Like Plagueis could be in here because of the virgins on Brendock. He could be there because he, you know, is trying to do the same thing that Sol was doing, which is like, what the hell? There's a virgins here. It could have nothing to do with Khmer. You know, it could just be like, okay, what the hell is this? Like, you know, he's starting to get into the whole cheat death. And I mean, that's the thing about Plagueis, is that it's much more than the whole, oh, he learned how to cheat death or whatever. It's much more than, you know, that one line in episode 3. Like, he does a whole ton of scientific shit. Like it's much more what you see in the opening scene on Exegol in Rise of Skywalker. It's much more that.
Yeah, but Plagueis, if he is indeed Plagueis, was not on Brendock. Plagueis was on Unknown Planet.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Well, maybe he was paying attention to OSHA then. It could still be the virgins. I mean,
Well,
because
I think the way the book starts, he's on some other planet with Tenebris, and they're mining cortosis. And we see that there's a lot of cortosis on this planet. So he might have just happened to be there doing other stuff. Hell, Tenebris might even be there with him.
That's a possibility.
He just came across these people, like you said, Sherrick.
Well,
Yeah.
they were down in a mine. What if that's the whole thing? Is like Plagueis had just killed Tenebris or whatever. He's coming out of the mine. He goes, "Oh shit, there's people! God damn it! I thought it was abandoned."
Look at his biceps.
Yeah, who's this guy? Who's Darth Swallow over there? Look, John Phillips, our resident negative Nancy. Good to see you, brother. He says Legends books are still better than most Disney Star Wars. I am going to strongly disagree with that. I think that the Legends books have been.
There's just too many of them. You can't make a blanket statement like that.
I think they've been overvalued. I think some of them are excellent, and the rest are just complete filler. It's like college basketball. It's like saying college basketball is better than the pros. No, I'd rather pay attention to 30 teams than 300 teams. You know, I mean, it means more. So that's the best way I can describe it. But I mean, there's a lot of good ones, and John, I totally understand why people love them. Don't get me wrong. I just think that, you know, some of the Legends fans, I think, are a little over the top with, you know, saying like how incredible they are. But that's just me. That's just me. So
I love that there's different options out there personally. Like I went back recently and I read, again, through Audible. Thank you. audibletrial.com/NHC. The original Han Solo, what basically was steamrolled by the Solo movie. There was a trilogy of Han Solo origin storybooks. And
what?
You know,
Really?
It's totally different. They're very short, easy reads, but I'm like, okay, cool. That's fun to see. Like that could have happened. That could have been how it played out, but we got this other story instead. I don't see where it has to be this problem of like, there's only one thing that could ever possibly happen and the rest is all crap. Like, take it or don't.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't see why not everybody's going to like everything, right? So if you don't like something, it's just not for you. Don't watch it.
Yeah.
You know, like if you like the story in Legends more, let that be your story. You don't have to take the new story on in your own headcanon.
Oh God, headcanon. Boy, do we hate headcanon on this
Right.
show.
Like until Book of Boba Fett came along, fans could just decide, did he survive the Sarlacc or was he just off like a chump in Return of the Jedi? It's up to you.
Yep.
Well, speaking of somebody who doesn't like everything, but likes most Star Wars things, you know him, you love him. He is our incredibly good friend from another kick-ass podcast. He is, of course, Mr. Cris Macht. What is going on, man? How are you? AJ, where's he at? There we go.
I am good. I owe you guys an apology for being so late. But you know what? I got to correct you, John. And I love being on your show, as always. You know what? I love all things Star Wars. Well, maybe. I just could not get into that Clone Wars. You know?
Dude, We talk about it a
The
lot.
entire series?
Yeah, I came around on Solo movie.
Wow.
I'm a live action guy.
7 seasons of television, and you're just nope.
Yeah, you know what? I am so happy that we're getting live action still, because I remember when I was at Celebration, probably even Celebration 4, it was, they announced live action Star Wars, and we never got it because the Clone Wars came to be. And it was very reminiscent of when George said that episode 1, 2, and 3 are coming, and then we got the special edition first. I guess that was just how he operated, But I got to tell you, man, I love the Acolyte. I loved the Book of Boba Fett. I loved Ahsoka. But because of my fascination for the Jedi, thank you to Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary this year. I find it very fitting that we're getting a Jedi story on the anniversary. And that end scene with Yoda, I was waiting for that in episode 1 of this show.
Let's jump in there. And I hate to pop a balloon already. You've been out for like 30 seconds. I'm already popping a balloon. Everyone is all hyped up about the Yoda cameo, and to me, I'm going, well, dude, he's 900 years old in Jedi. Like, we know he's alive. We know he's running the council, and all I got was the back of his head. I was like, okay. I expected it at this point, and everyone's so excited. I mean, it's not like
it took way too long, because as soon as they showed that Jedi temple, I believe it was in episode 1 of the Acolyte. Yeah. I'm like, I could just see Yoda, right? Because it was very reminiscent of the Phantom Menace, and they zoom in, and I'm like, where's Yoda? And we got him at the very, 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 very end. And I'm like, there he is. Excited to see him, yes. Expected, yes. Obviously, they're going to do a season 2 of The Acolyte. That was kind of what I was wondering.
Yeah.
They have to continue the story. They really do,
So, all right. You bring up the Jedi, and I'm with you, Chris. I think you and I have talked about the fact that, my favorite part of Star Wars is like the Jedi and the Force and lightsaber. Like that's my jam. Outside of Han Solo and the Millennium Falcon, let's roll. Give me the Jedi. But something I found very interesting about this show, I don't know how I feel about the presentation of the Jedi, because Vernestra at the end is like, Master Soul was a complete fuck up. All the rest of us are good.
Dude,
she
sold him down the river.
Yeah,
holy shit!
Under the bus. I'm like, what the hell? And then earlier in the season,
she apologized. She told him sorry.
Yeah, I'm sure that worked. He's already dead. Look, man, my dog killed a bird in the yard yesterday, and I apologized to the baby bird. It doesn't mean the fucker heard me. But see, Luke has spoken. He says they did Soul dirty. Yeah. And then, earlier, the 4 Jedi, they just basically were like, we're going to take these kids, they're stealing children. I was like, and I understand that this is like the beginning of the hubris age of the Jedi, like the downfall we kind of hear about in the prequels. But I thought it was handled a little heavy-handedly. What do you guys think?
I'll jump on that one. Yeah, I had the problem throughout the entire series. I wasn't sure if the portrayal of the characters was bad, like they just didn't get how to be a Jedi, or if they were deliberately being kind of terrible about it because they were supposed to look kind of terrible. It was I was seriously confused. Was it bad acting or bad writing? But either way, these Jedi suck.
Master Soul is definitely
quick as Jedi. Yeah. They were like, I'm going to invoke the word. I'm going to invoke the T word. They were Trek. They were Vulcan. Okay. I don't want to talk Trek on the show, but they were like, wow, Vulcan with their stoicism. It was ridiculous.
They weren't making good choices. They weren't thinking nothing through.
I was swerved by the show thinking that it was a deliberately jilted perspective on events by the character portrayals, like the Jedi, for example, because we were seeing it from the Sith's point of view, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course the Jedi are going to look like crap. Turns out that's not it. That's just how they were portrayed for some reason.
Yeah, I thought they glorified the evil side,
Like Vernestra. What stick did she have up her ass the entire series? Like the entire season. She was just unlikable.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was maybe more of the green face paint.
Void of emotion.
Right?
She was void of emotion.
Yeah. Oh, she had one emotion, and it was annoyance at everything. I didn't believe that any of those Jedi had camaraderie with each other because I was like, no one's likable enough to form a friendship.
Well, John, you didn't burst the bubble
You had
enough.
Jackie.
Your
Jackie was cool.
Jordan and Jackie
I know.
were the two that
I don't have to feel bad anymore,
right
Chris. Good
mindset,
Lord.
and they didn't last very long.
Yeah, I loved the Jackie character. I thought that was great. And then like she died, I was like, what the hell? I thought Yord was cool. Like, I mean, I get what you're saying, AJ. Like, I mean, Chris, what did you think? Because I thought they kind of showed some camaraderie between a few of them, but some of it did kind of feel that there was like they were just kind of like people stuck together, I guess, in a way.
Well, I mean, if you look at it too, going back to just forget about the books, forget about the fucking Clone Wars, just the Jedi in the prequels, right? They were flawed. They misread the prophecy. There were a lot of Jedi Council members that were like your stiff Sunday churchgoers, They didn't, and I feel like they were portrayed that way in this one. They all had their own different personality.
Yeah,
I thought anyway. This is all my fucking opinion, and it might not matter at all. But I found as soon as I saw Saul, I fell in love with him right away.
I did too.
He was a very, very likable Jedi, and I don't know what it was about him, but he definitely showed compassion. He was thrown down the river in the end, but I think because, look, everybody that makes a fucking mistake, a lot of people this bad want to throw it under the rug and cover it up. And that's exactly what they did with Saul in this case. Yeah, they kind of sold him out a little bit, but to kind of cover their own ass.
Yep.
I don't know. I loved it. And I feel like the challenge is, for me, going to bat for Star Wars every fucking new series. Because I'm enjoying it. I heard you guys when I was in the green room that some of you might not like it and it might not be for you, and that's totally fine. But I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to the second one. AJ, I kind of agree with you a little bit. I did not like you said Vernestra was the green Jedi character, right?
Yeah.
I don't think she was even supposed to be likable to begin with. And you think about it, the Jedi organization, the religion, if you will, there's going to be some fucking stiff people with sticks up their ass, for sure. And I think she portrayed that part well anyway.
Yeah. Right.
I haven't kept up on the High Republic stuff. That's where she comes from. She's like a Padawan and becomes a master through those books, which are a couple centuries prior to this. I think the most recent phase is like 100 years prior to this or something like that. And she's totally not like this character in this show. That's a lot of people are outright complaining about it. And that goes back to the fandom and their expectations. Like, yeah, it's been 100 years. There's probably a lot of crap that happened to her that would explain, and they probably did consider that. I feel like that's a deliberate character change because of a story beat that's been considered.
Maybe
so I don't have a problem with her characterization compared to the books.
Maybe she's just old as shit.
Not portrayed originally how a lot of people had, seen her.
Yeah.
The story's past. I think that's why
Master Indara, though,
not being wrapped up in a lot of, because I'm just a live action and a movie guy, and I never had the time to do all the comics, do all the books, do all the video games, and I know to keep that continuity seems to be a challenge. AJ, you just made an example of that. Okay, what happened to her? There's some kind of story there. And I think because I'm oblivious coming into this, not knowing this character, I think that might be a saving grace, but I am missing out on other Star Wars content for sure, which is the downfall of it, really, All
right, I got to get Kale's comment in here because I wanted to mention this. He says, Vernestra should have been in actual combat. I want to know how a light whip would do in combat when your blade is a laser noodle. Yeah.
Oh, you just have to watch Johnny Mnemonic for that one.
Good reference. Wow. Yeah, I have to say, I was not a big fan of the light whip. I was like, what the crap is that? Like, just stop messing with lightsabers, dude.
Yeah, right.
There's something so pure about a basic lightsaber. Like, okay, we got the double bladed one. That's cool. We got Kylo Ren's with like the little vents on the side to make like a cross T, whatever the hell it's called, that's fine. And then we even got, the lightsaber dagger, with Kamir in this show. But then the light whip, I was like, and I'm sorry, maybe this is wrong of me, but immediately my mind went to Blue Harvest, the Family Guy, the first where they did A New Hope, where Herman, the old guy, he's holding out his lightsaber and it goes limp, and then Luke walks in and he goes, "You came in just in time," and it gets hard again. Like I just pictured Herman the pervert, man. Like I couldn't help it. Oh my God. Oh, here it is.
So again, a quick demo. This is artwork from the High Republic. This is what Vernestra Rwoh looked like when she was a Padawan and she had the purple light whip. So it's a thing. It's canon.
I hate that idea.
It is cool art. That is cool artwork.
I just don't like that idea. Like, man, leave it be. Will you? Every once in a while, I just like, it's like too much.
It's not like you can come up with that idea to sell a toy, right?
Right.
Because I haven't seen those.
Luke has spoken. John, you've ruined light whips for me. Look, man. Yeah, DFT's Dungeon. What's up, Dan? Good to see you, bro. He says, I'd definitely be worried about accidentally whacking my foot off with that thing. How do you train with that?
Yeah, right?
You're going to lose digits and everything, like hack people in half and shit. Like, my God, that is awful. But
I think I had issues with the Jedi right off the rip. I mean, as cool as the cold intro was in the very first episode, I do have beef with it because Master Indara is just sitting there, chilling, having noodles, I guess, with her friends or whatever.
Space ramen.
She gets challenged to a fight, and then May just starts kicking the shit out of all these patrons in the restaurant. And Indara's just sitting there, like, sizing her up while all these people are getting their asses whooped. And did anyone die at that point yet? I forget if someone actually died before she stepped in, but damn near. I'm like, shouldn't you stand up and do something about this? You're the, guardian of peace. Well, here's a disruption. Settle that shit down, will you? Instead, she's like, nope, I'm going to be stoic.
Like, her ramen was getting cold. She paid a lot of credits for that ramen, dude.
That is true. Good ramen.
Have you guys watched it twice, or have you guys just watched it one episode? Because I've only done one viewing. I want to go back.
I have two.
I haven't binged it, but I did try to get in 2 viewings a week. So just rewatch the episode. I didn't get to do that with the this one or the last one. So I haven't tried them back to back to back to see if they flow better.
Since we're talking about Indara, let me get your guys' opinion about something. So she's supposed to be a great Jedi. She fights May and loses. But earlier, like in the years when everything went down, she was strong enough to enter a Wookiee's mind and kill 20 witches, but she couldn't defeat May.
Well, she got distracted. I thought
and
that was
Osh is the stronger of the sisters.
Yeah.
Technically, right?
Yeah. Technically, right.
But I thought that was a cool way for her to lose the fight, was for her to turn her attention to saving someone else.
I did like how it went down, but as the story played out, I'm like, wait, if she's that badass and strong, she couldn't take on the weaker of the sisters. But
well, I have to say, like, I see where you're going with that. I personally didn't have a problem with it because as the fight was going along, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I was like, well, whoever this, assassin person is, they better be like a world beating ass kicker to just come in here and wipe up the floor with a Jedi like that. But until it was the whole, I'm going to kill somebody else if you don't cut it out. Like, then I was like, okay, that's kind of cool. Like, that's a Jedi way to go out, save the innocent. And then, move on. Like, and then if you're going to get killed. So I didn't have a problem with it, Sherrick, for that reason.
Makes sense.
So yeah,
and Saul did the same thing where we saw the Jedi a couple times hold back. They only, like Yoda says, you use it for defense, never for attack. So she wasn't fighting with her full force because she didn't want to use any more force than necessary.
Right.
So I was down with that. I was like, okay, you're kind of getting your ass whipped a little bit. Like Saul was getting punched in the face by Mother Coral or whatever.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, you just let yourself get punched in the face. That's dumb. But I get why Indara was not using her full power until the lightsaber didn't come out until she was like, all right, well, other people's lives are in jeopardy here. I got to do something.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's like I didn't really have a problem with it. To me, that was kind of the DFT's dungeon. So many poor dudes just came in to have a space beer and are now dead for basically no reason. Nice. Oh.
Speaking about a space beer, I'm going to crack one open right now.
There you go.
I've got a theme going tonight. See, I've got a blueberry beer here, and if that one runs out, I've got a red raspberry beer. So,
you got the blue and the red going.
Look at that. Shouldn't you have yellow? Luke has spoken is saying that he loves the fact that we got more yellow lightsabers in this series. Nice to see Yord and Torben using yellow sabers. They can join Rey Skywalker in the Yellow Saber Club. All right.
Hey, actually, I think the first yellow saber goes to Ken or Luke, and then the second one goes to Plo Koon in Jedi Power Battles.
Gee,
you are deep cutting like crazy.
Who's the collector here?
Wow.
I might not know about your High Republic. I know about the origin of the yellow lightsaber.
Nice.
Hey, and that's why I got a yellow beer here, right here.
There you go. We've got all the colors, man. Who's going to do a purple? We need someone with like a grape or something. Like we'll be ready to roll, man.
What did you guys think about the lightsaber? This is OSHA, right? Turning the lightsaber.
Oh, bleeding it.
Red.
Well, bleeding the crystal. Yeah.
I don't know. To me, what's the theory behind that? You guys explain.
So it has been covered. Not in live action, but it has been shown in animation and also in comics and covered in books. Yeah, the idea is you pour all your anger and your hatred into the crystal, and that turns it from its natural color to red. Red is not a naturally occurring kyber color.
See, again, I'm missing out on content by not deep diving in the books and the comic books and the video games and all that.
But does that matter?
Well, kind of, because
that backstory, was it just like a cool moment for you to see that and be like, what the hell?
It was more of a curious moment, I guess. Like, I've never seen that done. Like you said, it's never been done on live action before, So, but the fact that you said it's been explained, okay, that's got to be cool for you guys that have known that to see that happen, right?
I didn't know the term bleeding it, but I was aware that it's like, to me, I'm like, okay, that's beyond the fact. Yeah. Beyond the fact that it's like, okay, it turned red. We know what the color red means in Star Wars.
Yeah. That's gotta be
I
hard.
I always look at things like that. Like there's all of us that have been Star Wars fans for years. Right. But there's some of us like me, I am only just watch live action. Some people read the books, watch the movies, play the games, do all that. And they know everything that's legends and everything. But you also have new people coming that have never, this is their first Star Wars, right? So they're going to be like, holy shit, bleeding the kyber crystal, that's dope. You know what I mean? And then they want to see more of it. And then they're like, whoa, Darth Plagueis, I got to look this guy up. And then they start reading all the other stuff about him. So like, that's why I think, Chris, I'm right there with you. Like, that's the first time I've ever seen it happen. I've heard of it, but to see it happen, I was like, that's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
That's got to be a hard thing to write. You got to write it in such a way that it's satisfying for someone who has no background knowledge, and it's still satisfying for someone who has all the background knowledge.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like, I think, like I didn't know the term. I knew that it was possible. And I mean, Luke has spoken. He mentions it, in the comments. He says it's actually why Kylo Ren has the cross guard. He put so much rage into the crystal that it cracked, making it unstable. He had to make the vents in the hilt to contain the blade. So, I mean, you've got that. And, like I say, I didn't know the term for it, but I knew that it was a thing. And so I was aware, okay, that's a Star Wars thing. But, to your point, Sherrick, people that are just coming into Star Wars, as soon as you see a crystal turn red, you instantly associate red with bad guy. So you're going, oh, that person's becoming a bad guy. So it kind of, it does have that, thing, that they've done a great job with in the live action series, where it's got a ton of great stuff for those of us who are old school fans and just super nerds, but people who are just casual observers can come in and still have a good time with it and understand what's going on.
Right.
So it is amazing the breadth of fans that they have to serve. I've got a friend at work who is a very lapsed Star Wars fan. So he saw like the movies. I don't think he's even made it through all the sequel trilogy movies yet. And he started watching the Disney Plus shows, and like he fired up Ahsoka, having never seen Rebels. So not knowing who that character is whatsoever. And his first question was, why does Ahsoka have ears? And I'm like, I never noticed that. Holy shit. Like that's the base level of someone who could just like fire up Disney Plus and watch a show like this.
Yeah.
They're not going to know what the hell bleeding a Kyber is. They don't even know what a Kyber is. So yeah, you got to write it for
fun, though, to have a few people that we know like that. And then we are like essentially their source of education, Star Wars education, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That are responsible for explaining this to them. And, some people, that I've met, they're like, oh man, you're going to kill me. I've never seen Star Wars. I'm like, you know what? I would like to watch Star Wars with you for the first time.
Yeah, right.
I love the questions they come up with. Yeah.
I'm not going to shun you for it. It's a little strange. Sure. It's been around the block for quite a while now. If you've never seen it at this point, especially the first Star Wars movie, it's like, were you living under a rock that whole time?
Right.
So based on that, Chris, do you think that this show is a good entry point for someone who's not versed? Because it's so detached from the original trilogy and the whole Skywalker saga. Do you think you can just like pick this up with no foreknowledge? Do you think it's a whole story on its own?
Based on, aside from The Mandalorian, right? Because I felt like that was a good series that you could just get into and watch. And you didn't really need to know a lot about Star Wars history or Star Wars past. I feel like this one you have to at least have an understanding on a basic understanding on the Jedi. And in this case, the Sith, the good and evil concept. But here's the thing too: the fact that Coruscant was in this episode, in this series, not just as a planet cameo, if you will, but as a regular place. It felt like that was the moment that always brought me back. Like, okay, yes, this is tying it. This is tying some familiarity into episode 1 as far as the Jedi Council, the city that they're in, that sort of thing. I really enjoyed that. And I felt like a lot of this felt like Star Wars. This is kind of blasphemy, but I'm going to say it. Everybody loved it. I liked it. But to me, and I know we're talking about the Acolyte here, but I thought Andor was like, I don't know, man, people love that fucking show. And I was like, yeah, it was all right, I thought the Acolyte was more favored by myself than Andor was. Maybe because I love the fuck out of Rogue One, and this was like, Andor was not Rogue One at all. Where episode 1, it's like I missed those days. You guys were there in the theater. It's like that's the new vintage now,
Yeah, right.
And I just love the throwback to that era, if you will. And if that makes any sense.
No, it definitely makes sense. I mean, I would agree. I think personally, and I'll be interested to get your take on this, Sherrick, but like, yeah, I think for me, I don't, to your question, AJ, I don't know if it's a good, like, jumping off point, specifically because of what we just talked about a little bit is the presentation of the Jedi. Because I think, growing up, I mean, the reason that we're sitting here having a discussion about, oh, well, I don't know if they, I thought they presented the Jedi kind of heavy handedly, and that's not really what the Jedi, what we would think the Jedi should be, or what we've seen, like, is because we have seen the Jedi be like the peak of good, the peak of, of everything that's, just and honest in the galaxy. And then in this one, you get, they're getting worked by some, the 10th member of Slipknot in the trees, and, and then you got, Vernestra just throwing a dead guy under the bus, for the to cover for the rest of the Jedi Order or something, like. So and also there's not really a big collection of bad guys. So you basically have all these, like, 80 Jedi you see in the show, and then you've got like one or two bad guys, and you're like, seriously? And then also with like the Coven of Witches, you're like, what the hell? People be like, what the hell are these? So I think there's too much going on for it to be a good jumping off point, because I think to really understand Star Wars, I think you need something stark like Episode 4 was, which is the bad guys are very obviously bad. The good guys are very obviously good. Oh, there's the Force. That, like, sets the table. And, to Chris's point about Episode 1, you have a ton of Jedi, and you can tell that it's like the center of the galaxy. Like they're, the guardians of peace and justice, and then you've got the Emperor, like, ooh, who's this evil bad guy working behind the scenes? Like, he's so damn evil. And then Darth Maul comes in, you're like, who's this painted up like clown freak? Like, what the hell? Like, whereas this one, I think, is very ambiguous in parts. So I don't think it's a great spot to start someone. That's just my opinion. Sherrick, what do you think?
So what I think is outside of the High Republic books, you have nothing else to really, and Legends, but let's just speak canon stuff. You don't really have anything else to go on when you start the show, right? So people that have read the High Republic books, like kids and adults, if this is what the show they're starting out with, great, because they just read all this new stuff, and there's characters, or at least a character, and time that kind of ties to that, right? But the only thing really tying this, there's two characters in this that tie it to future stuff, right? But to me, you have no idea what those characters mean unless you've watched episode 1 through 3 or 4 through 6. You know what I mean? So I personally feel like a better starting off point is episode 1. Because then when you go back and watch this, you're going to say, oh, I know who that guy is with the big ears at the end. I know who Ki-Adi-Mundi is. You know what I mean? Like, and the reason they're put in there. But so I don't know. I feel like you're missing out on a bigger story and better stories and lore if you're just starting with this. Because to me, everything else is just, it's a bigger story, what's already out there before this show.
I've mentioned a lot of episode 1, but episode 3, especially with Palpatine talking to Anakin in those one-on-one scenes, in episode 3 in Revenge of the Sith, I feel like the fact that we know that, we're looking at this Acolyte how we should be differently, I guess, but we understand the flaw of the Jedi from Revenge of the Sith. And at least I do. And maybe you agree to this too, because you're not super familiar with a lot of the books and the comic books and that. But I feel like this is a very good, and this might be a controversial thing to say. The Acolyte, to me, is a great story that still fits in the mindset of how the Jedi were portrayed in the prequels. With the flaw and with the flaws that they have, and still doing the good things like protecting people, saving people, not attacking, not using it for attack, using it for defense. Mm-hmm. I felt like maybe, AJ, I know you said the characters you didn't fall in love with necessarily, but I feel like the moral and the way of the Jedi, I don't feel are too far thrown off from how I took it from the Lucas era movies, if that makes any sense.
No, that makes total sense. And I think on that end, I would agree with you. You definitely see them not attacking. I mean, near the end, you see Saul kind of going on the offensive, but it's one of those situations where you're left with no other choice. So it's not like he just, all of a sudden, like Indara in the first episode, it's not like, hey, let's fight. Okay, get over here. Like it's trying to whoop ass on somebody that's just like challenging her, So
They'll
on
pick
that
a
one,
fucking lock whenever they feel like it, though. That's for sure. Breaking and entering, little light B&E is no big deal.
right?
I love how their explanation after they wander in, they have to break into the fortress, and then they're like, "Oh, sorry, we didn't know that there was anyone on this planet." Like, who do you think locked the door, stupid?
Yeah. Well, there's a big ass, fresh looking, clean door right in the middle of a side of a mountain. What? That just happened? Like, oh shit, this is the Virgins. This is the Virgins. Construction. Okay. It wasn't actually people. The Force just made a door into a mountain. Oh, well,
Although
problem solved.
Well, otherwise, what you get is Commissioner Gordon from Batman '89 with the bell and at the tower. Just like, ugh. All right, let's go.
Right. I also did notice, speaking of the door, by the way, like May, or OSHA, whichever, I forget which one at this point, but she like hot wires the door and it opens up. Well, then the other people come and they're having to force open it. Like, push the button, shithead. She just fixed it. Didn't you even think to hit the goddamn thing it's on? Like, you see,
that was
like
the most pregnable fortress. You could either slice your way in, you could climb the wall, you could repair the busted mechanical panel. Like, there's nothing keeping anyone out of that place. Like, why even have a door? It should just be a bead curtain.
I'm just curious, like,
bead curtain.
Does this thing have a backup generator for the generator that exploded? Like, where's the power come from?
That's a good point.
Well, of
I hadn't thought of that.
Of course. And the other thing that I like is how at the end when they're like, okay, I know there's a way out of here. We got to climb down here. And you look, and like the Empire Strikes Back-esque shaft is way in the back. It's like, it's not like it's a straight climb down at an angle where you could do it. Like, no, it goes like inward. It's like inverse. Like, how the hell are they going to get in there?
Wait,
I did wonder, how the hell did May end up there in the first place as a kid?
She said she got sucked in when she fell. So basically like the Luke Skywalker on Bespin.
Yeah.
What the hell are these tubes sucking people in?
Did Kymir like teleport when he was like, are you sure? Or whatever. And she's like, we have to take the elevator. And then all of a sudden he's just gone.
Mm-hmm.
And he's
like, Batman.
Yeah. I mean,
he apparated.
He just yeeted right out of there.
He turned into black smoke and floated.
There were a few moments in this show where I'm like, and like I said, I'm going to have to write about this and just be that guy bitching online. But there are some moments with the production of this show where I'm like, you just did that badly. You had a good story idea and you showed it badly.
He did. Like, he did. One of two things. Either he did like the Force run, like Obi-Wan
up the side of the mountain.
No, in the beginning of episode 1 with it's a standoff, and then boom, all of a sudden they're
yeah.
Either that or there's another angle where like he looks around, you don't see Kymir on the screen, and he turns around and somebody's behind him. Is like, dude, he's hiding behind a rock. Like Kymir's like shit, and he runs real fast and jumps behind a rock, and he's huddled back there like, you can't see me. And they're like,
it's
where
like a
the
Monty
hell did he
Python
go?
skit where he just like walks around the edge of the set to the other side of the wall.
Exactly.
Now, John, you said that you love all things lightsabers. Don't fuck with them. Don't change them. Do you feel like the lightsaber battles in the Acolyte? Do you think they used the lightsabers enough? And were you happy with the battles?
Oh yeah, love them. And actually, we were talking about this just before you jumped on. Like, I mean, I think that's one thing that this show definitely got right. I think for people who didn't really enjoy the show, I think the fight choreography and the things that they did, I think, are kind of a selling point. It's kind of like a saving grace of the show, if you will. Like I said, I didn't like the light whip thing. I'm never a fan of this, like, let's shoehorn new shit in there. It's like we talked about the Rise of Skywalker, like, hi, I'm Janna. who gives a shit? I don't need another new goddamn character. Go on. I don't need a space horse that can run on a spaceship. Fuck that shit. Like just like, get to the point, asshole. We're ending like the whole Skywalker saga. So, I don't need all this new crap. But, that having been said, I thought they did some really cool new things that were very subtle. And I thought it worked really cool, like in that last battle where they're falling and they kind of slow themselves in midair. Like, we know they can do that. We've seen the whole, Luke falling backwards in The Last Jedi and hovering just a few inches off the ground. But, to actually see that in combat was really cool. The whole thing in either the first or second episode, whatever it was, second, where Saul was, fighting, in the street, and he did all those cool moves where he was basically just defending himself. I thought that was awesome. And I think even just the implication of, the way that Kelnaka was killed with, the lightsaber boomerang thing was, you picture that's how it had to happen. Like, so, I thought it was cool. And, I thought there was a lot of lightsaber action going on in it, which is, again, for me, that's awesome. That's what I sign up to see Star Wars, I should say. So, I loved it. What about you? Because I know that you and I are very big Jedi, Jedi fans.
Yeah, I
defenders.
I duplicate your answer there. I thought it was great. There was not one moment where I'm like, why don't you use the lightsaber? Because they were already using it.
Yeah. Right.
You can't really say, oh my God, the lightsaber again. Nobody complains about that.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah.
I think it was weird. Did you notice in that final battle that Soul did a lot of like saber off, saber on, saber off, saber on?
I did notice that. Yes. I thought that was a little different.
He doesn't want to cut himself.
Exactly. He had a faulty switch. That's all it was. It was a faulty switch.
I just wanted more Kelnaka. I don't feel like we got enough Wookiee Jedi action.
I thought that was a very underutilized character as well. What do you guys think? As soon as I saw Wookiee Jedi, I'm like, oh, let's go. But instead it was like, okay, well, they killed him basically before he could do anything. And then they had one scene where he was like,
John and I were talking about that. And he was like, I can't believe they killed him before we even get to see him light his lightsaber. And I'm like, dude, they show it in the trailer. Like, there's going to be a flashback. And he's like, what?
I had completely forgotten about it. Yeah.
Dude, I got duplicate stuff too. From the very first episode when, Indara gets hers right at the beginning. I'm like, they got Carrie-Anne Moss for that? And no, they of course have flashbacks and they get a lot more Carrie-Anne Moss. But I was like, you got Carrie-Anne Moss for like a 4-minute scene. That's it. That's all we get of her.
Cameo.
Exactly. Imagine, like we said on the previous episode, imagine getting the script like, hey, would you like to be in Star Wars? Hell yeah. You're a Jedi. Sweet. Reads the script. God damn it. I die in 3 minutes. What?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I wanted to bring something up before I forget about it, because John brought it up earlier about the Kylo Ren theme. So what are your guys' thoughts on why they played that? Do you think it's because he if you look up, because I didn't know this before, I went down a deep dive after this, that if you look up the origins of the Wrens, he looks very similar to a Wren from the novels. But then I also thought, is that why they're doing it? Like he's going to start the Knights of Ren? Or is it because him and the twins' story is very similar to Kylo and Rey?
I wouldn't be surprised if it is like kind of like a precursor to the Knights of Ren. I honestly wouldn't. That was kind of my first initial thought when I saw that mask.
It would be appropriate because I felt like they kind of left that all. They left a void there in the sequels with the Knights of Ren. So now they can go back and, like you said, show the origin possibly. I would be cool with that for sure. I think that'd be a great story to tell. But ask 80% of the other fan base and they'll bitch and complain about it.
Right. Yeah, no,
the guy that portrayed, and because I'm so fucking bad with names, the villain that wore that mask.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, he is so good. You know why? Because I thought he was a total fucking douchebag the whole time. And I remembered somebody telling me, if you hate a villain, when I was younger, if you hate a villain that much, they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
And that's exactly how I felt as a 4-year-old seeing Vader in A New Hope. I'm like, this guy's a fucking prick.
You know, the best comparison I heard about him, like when we first met him, is Yoda on Dagobah. Like kind of goofy, silly, you know, like, oh, I don't know, you know. And, you know, you're like, oh, this guy's, you know, he's just a nobody, weirdo, you know, silly guy. And then next thing you know, oh, wait, he's a badass.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah, comparable to Yoda on Dagobah.
And the thing that I liked about him is, like, I always like when the villain isn't just a super a-hole. You know what I mean? Like, it's where there's more. Yeah, exactly. Perfect way to phrase it, man. By the way, in the chat, they're talking about the horrific pop song at the end of episode 7. Yeah, it was. What in God's name were they thinking? Yeah.
At least it wasn't during the show.
Yeah.
That would have been a definite.
They might have well played yakety sax. They're going to do that. But
can I say something very controversial on your show?
We always say controversial things.
Okay,
you met us?
So we are a very open-minded, loving, equality home here at the Machtails. And when that song came on at the end of episode 7, which was my favorite episode, and they kind of dampened it with that fucking song. My wife even said, "This sounds a little woke."
Here's the thing, you know, after that episode ended, I was like, if no one complains about this episode, they're definitely complaining about the song.
Oh yeah.
And sure enough, that's all that was on the internet the next day. And that night was what was with the damn pop song.
And then this song was released, I believe, several weeks before it made its debut, because I've said this before. The music in this show I felt was very close to the feeling that I got from the original and prequel trilogy. Definitely not John Williams by any means, but it definitely brought a familiar feeling, right?
It fit.
And then I went on Amazon Music, and that song came up, and I'm like, "What the fuck is this?"
You need that.
It was kind of the equivalent of that.
It really was. But let's be honest. I mean, if people want to complain about stuff in the show, can we just say that song and the dumb witches thing, like the power of man, that was. Man, when they were doing that stupid witch chant, I was like, what the hell is that?
There was a moment I think we all sat in our living room like it was the 1980s, 1970s together with who you were with, and you just looked at each other like, what the fuck is this?
Exactly.
Yeah, that was like a holiday special or Caravan of Courage kind of moment.
Yeah. Totally. Totally.
Am I watching the goddamn Ewok adventure?
I mean, you don't sing that or film it and go, maybe we need to retool that song a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the best you can come up with for a show tune, that coven deserved to die. I mean, that's never making Broadway.
That's why the Jedi killed him. They're like, oh my God, we got to save this. This is like saving the world from Justin Bieber. Like let's off these people before this can get out of there, get out onto Spotify and all this. Like, ugh.
I would say that song, Power of Two, right? The one we're referencing here. Yeah. That was how I felt when John Williams used the guitar in Attack of the Clones, the electric guitar, but he used it for one little lick. This was one whole fucking song.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not the Star Wars way. Like, that did not feel anything like Star Wars.
See, Chris, you need to watch the show like we do. Skip the 7 minutes of credits, and then you won't even hear the song.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
7 minutes, 8 minutes of credits, right?
I just picture like what the hell got rejected. You know, I was thinking like with the Witch Coven, like what was it like? Was it like trap music or something? They're like doing this scene out in here, like no, that doesn't fit. What if we do like a chant? Yeah, that's gonna be awesome. I mean, do you ever wonder if they go back and look at this shit and go, "Oh my God, we should have changed that." Like now I know why George did the special editions.
behind the scenes, they're like, "Hey, we got this really great episode. We got to sneak that song at the end of a really great episode."
Yeah,
gotta ruin it. But they got episode 7 was great. If my memory serves me well, that was the episode that I liked the most. But that song was. We could definitely do without the song for sure.
Yeah. Kale McLeish, I don't need Star Wars on Broadway, but I do need Empire on Ice. Oh my God. Yeah, he's right though. He says we've had trap music in Star Wars already. Remember the Dark Troopers in Mando season 2?
And yet, strangely, as weird as the music is for Mandalorian, it doesn't seem out of place at all.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Is this stuff was like the ultimate sore thumb. Like, what the hell is this? Like, oh boy.
Yeah, every gripe I have about this show, I can think of an example where it was done better elsewhere in Star Wars. So, like, even down to something simple, like I thought the lightsabers looked weird in the last episode, and people are saying like, well, it's daylight, so things are exposed differently. I'm like, they looked like normal lightsabers in The Last Jedi when they were in broad daylight, both on Crate and on Ahch-To. So, we've seen daylight lightsabers before. The blade was like, it's usually like my sign behind me here, where it's like overexposed. It like blows out the camera because it's the brightest thing going. So it's all like the color of a lightsaber is only communicated by the glow around the edges and not the blade in the middle. But they were wielding it around. It was just like blue blade, red blade, not white blade with blue glow and white blade with red glow.
Man, okay, dude. What is it with you with the goddamn lightsaber blades? That is like one of your that is like your big Star Wars hang up.
I know.
It's like
I know.
Always
there's something weird about.
God damn, it's lightsaber fights, man. See, you're like my wife. We'll be watching a movie and I'll be like getting into the source like that woman had plastic surgery. Look at her upper lip. It's not moving. And I'm like, what? And then I look at it and I'm like, God damn it, no, I can't unsee that. I'm trying to watch a movie.
It just looked like an unfinished effect because they didn't look that way in any other
bother
scenes
me
from the show.
AJ,
I could compare it to like other scenes in this series, and it's not the same.
Other people talking about it online about the glow.
Yeah. If it was consistent with the rest of the series, then I would say, okay, that's an artistic choice. But I feel like they just forgot to do that effect or something. It was like the only glow was coming off the prop that was filmed on stage instead of going.
Those are the old school lightsabers.
Yeah. By the way, can we talk about that for a second? Speaking of production stuff, remember how like stoked ILM was to brag about the volume? Like they were all about the volume. It was the coolest thing. It made The Mandalorian happen. Couldn't happen without the volume. Now you get Andor and this show, and they brag about not using the volume.
I'm going to tell you, I'm not a fan of the volume.
And I think this show, there were a lot of parts of this show that I think might have benefited from it. Like there's some weird stuff where it just looked, I don't know, a little cheap.
There's certain times when it looks really good, but there's some times where it looks too fake, too clean. You know what I mean? And crisp. Like I'll give you an example. Even with this show, right? The scenes that aren't like in a real location, right? Mm-hmm. When I watch them on my 4K TV, I'm like, man, this looks very CW, right? But then I go down on my projector in my basement on a movie screen that has a little bit of grain texture to it, even though it's still like a fake 4K, and it's the shit. Like I feel like I'm watching a Star Wars movie in the theater. So sometimes I just think it's the quality of TV you're watching it on that makes it look that way, or some people have the high frame rate on, which is a mistake, so just things look crazy. But I think a lot of it's just what we watch it on.
I mean, you make a very, very good point. I feel like these TV series, they will never be as good as the movies that were released in the theater. Because there is this quality of television, for good or bad, that's always different than those cinematic movies. And I know exactly what you're talking about. You get that with the acting, you get that with the sets, you get that with the effects. It's just but then you go to see like the preview, right? Like the first watch, right? Where they'll throw like the first 5 minutes of these new series in the theater, and they look fucking great. But you watch them in your home on your 4K or whatever size TV, it doesn't look and feel the same. It feels like television to me, which is definitely different than going to the movie theater.
Right. Yeah, I wish I knew more about like how these shows are made, because I know you don't like it conceptually, Chris, but I think Andor looks like that just is an extension of Rogue One as far as the quality of the visuals and everything. Like, it just looks amazing. Exactly like Rogue One to me. It doesn't look like a downgraded TV at all. So, and this was filmed the same way. They went to places and they put cameras there and they filmed stuff. And yet for some reason, Andor looks a million times better than this to me. I don't know if that's down to direction or cameras used or what, but
Andor's something. One damn color. Andor's all tan shit for 10 episodes. It's tan shit and rocks. There's nothing there. What the hell are you going to use the volume for? Sand?
I'm not saying Andor should use the volume. I'm saying that Andor looks great and this doesn't, and they probably cost about the same and were filmed with the same methods. So what's the difference?
Nothing to show. There's nothing to show with Andor. It's not like there's a shitload of fights and space scenes and all that kind of stuff. This has a ton of different stuff. So of course it's going to be different because it's much more visually involved. So it's going to look that way. I don't know. The whole argument with the volume to me is it's just silly. Like I just, and at least you guys
I almost wish they wouldn't say anything about it. It's distracting to know, because then I'm like looking for it.
Well,
every shot that I don't like, I didn't even know this wasn't filmed on the volume until I saw that as a headline, because something was off about the visuals from the start for me. And I was like, it's that damn volume again. And then I found out they didn't use the volume. I'm like, well, now I don't even know what the problem is.
So I've never had any issues with the volume on The Mandalorian. I feel like they kind of started it, right?
Kenobi is where it really kind of showed.
Yeah.
And Ahsoka.
The Favreau and them, they know how to use it. It was created for that show, correct?
Yeah, that was the debut.
And to me, everything it's been used on after Mandalorian, it doesn't look as good. There's just something about it.
I see JT's face. He wants to say something.
He's so mad. He wants to kick me out of the.
That's fine.
All right, go for it, bro.
The fuck are you watching? It's Star Wars. Quit looking at the goddamn background. Who cares? It's close enough. What the hell do you want? Did you see the George Lucas live action demo? Like Chris mentioned earlier?
Are you the same guy that was bitching about horses on spaceships earlier?
Because that's fucking stupid.
If I'm not supposed to give a shit what it looks like, I'll read a book.
Goddamn nitpicking ass mother. Seriously, man.
I got a fresh tall boy. Let's get into this.
There's space horses on spaceships.
A lot of people complain about the pacing.
Don't make me bring up the P word, John.
Look, don't even. There is no. They are completely.
Well, Sherrick, we'd like to welcome you and thank you for your time on the show. It's
I gotta give him crap, man.
Those goddamn things are indefensible. Okay, period. The end.
Hey, I didn't say that's what I was talking about. You're assuming.
You know exactly what you're saying. There, I'm changing the banner. There you go. Even though you didn't say anything, I'm putting the goddamn banner up. There you go. Now it's valid. That banner is goddamn valid. Now.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Do you guys like all the seeding for future seasons in this without the promise of another season?
I was actually gonna ask a much simpler question than that, but I do. And I don't understand how people are. I mean, excuse me. Kale and Lucas Spoken were saying in the chat earlier, there's no way there's a second season.
I don't think they're saying that because
cannot be.
I think people think that there's so much hate out there for this show that they're not going to greenlight it. I don't agree because of what we were talking about earlier, right? Even the people that hate it are watching it.
Mm-hmm.
It's still getting all the views and eyeballs that Disney wants it to get. Or Lucasfilm wants it to get, Well,
and there's people like us that enjoyed it. The Howard Stern movie, where it's like the people who love Howard Stern, they Can't wait to hear what he has to say next. The people that hate Howard Stern can't wait to hear what he's going to say next.
Well, and here's the thing, though. I mean, it's like, you know,
they're still tuning in. It doesn't matter.
You mentioned the use of the volume. They made the volume to make these shows affordable to create. If they're going back to live sets and doing like location filming, that's what they were using the volume to avoid. If they're doing that now, they're getting their subscriber money somewhere, so they're going to do it. And let's not forget, this shit is.
I wonder why they didn't use
it
on this then. You know, because it is a cost saving measure.
I do not know. I don't know, but I mean, dude, this stuff is written 3 years in advance. We know that. So
yeah, especially
I find
the High Republic has been very well coordinated. So anything that ties into that has definitely been considered the whole time.
Yeah, that and also, I mean, you're not just gonna. The whole Star Wars fandom is screaming for Plagueis. You finally give them 3 seconds of Plagueis, and you're not going to pay that off. That's the only Plagueis you're going to get. I do not think
That's what I'm thinking. Like, can you imagine if there's no season 2?
And they say in interviews, she said, like, I have season 2 laid out, but this was a definitive end to this show in case I don't get a season 2. But I'm like, there's so many of these threads that have to be continued in another season of something.
I feel like they overseeded the stranger. They got light whip scars on his back.
Yeah.
An obvious acknowledgement that Vernestra Rowe is his former master. And you got Plagueis hanging out in a cave. I mean, Christ, how many more plot threads do you need for this
out
guy?
in the cave, and you got the back of fucking Yoda's head. There's going to be another season 2. I'd put all the fucking money in the world on it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that is going to be the world's biggest blue ball moment.
Exactly. Dude, Vandalorian Sean Hines says, if the hate makes enough noise, things get canceled. Ask the production on Solo 2. That's the only thing they've canceled, though. I mean,
well, here's the thing, though. The difference is you got a movie that didn't make $1 billion, right? It made half of what all the other movies made, versus you got a show that half the people hate and half the people like, but they all watched it because it's streaming and they need viewers.
Well,
so the difference is the money-making machine versus the viewership machine.
Well, and I think the issue here,
very true.
I think the main issue that people are forgetting is that all of these things that they're creating are tying into a larger story. So you're not just going to, oh, well, people didn't like it, we're not doing season 2, because it's like going in a book like, okay, I just read chapter 5. Wait, what's chapter 7? Where the hell did chapter 6 go? They're not going to do that. They're not just going to remove a chapter of this enormous story they've spent years and years to make all these moving parts of. They're not going to do it. And besides, let's be even more direct. Do you really think after all this time that Kathleen Kennedy and all these Star Wars people give a flying fuck what all these internet dickheads are thinking?
No, amen for that.
Dude, seriously. I mean, it's like it's the spam botting, like the review botting, whatever the hell it's called. That shit's going on. All these negative dummies in the comment sections, they don't care because they got their subscribers and they got people like us who love Star Wars and continue to watch it, in spades. They're not listening to the vocal minority. I'm sorry.
It is the soundbite of the fucking year right there.
Sorry.
I mean, honest to God, they don't give a fuck. And, to your point, Solo was canceled because it didn't make the money on the big screen. But like you said, the viewership is what they need. Mm-hmm. And after people hear what they saw in these little glimpses of Plagueis and Yoda in the last episode, even the haters are going to be sitting in front of their TV watching season 2, eating some popcorn,
Yep. Well, and that's, we had made the point earlier, Chris, right before you got on. We said, that, for a season 2, they have to play it out. And even the people that hate the show are going to tune into season 2 because they want to see Plagueis. And they want to see, okay, how's Yoda come into this? Like the characters they know, there's a character they've been waiting for forever.
Yeah.
And then there's one that everybody loves. Like, yeah. And I'm sorry, the Plagueis thing right there. How long? I mean, interesting to get your guys' opinion on this. I think that the only character that has, now that we've got Thrawn in live action, I think the only character people have been clamoring for more than Plagueis or equal to Plagueis is Mara Jade. What other character that has not been brought into the live action or the current canon?
Very true.
Can you say that people have talked to? So now you're going to bring him in there and just have him be some dickhead hanging out in a cave, like some creeper, some stalker for 3 seconds? There's your Plagueis. What's it going to be like? Leslie Headland's like, here, God damn it, you got Plagueis. Now shut the hell up and let's move on. Like, no, that's not happening. It's just not.
Yeah.
Sorry,
agree with you 100%.
So yeah,
I just wonder. I heard something where she said that the thing that she was super excited to get the chance to do was in the finale, and I'm just wondering is it Plagueis or is it that she got to put Yoda in something that she made? I'm guessing it's Plagueis, but
yeah, the soundbite I heard was there anything from Legends that you wanted to get in?
It was. You're right.
Yeah,
and yeah. So it had to be that Plagueis cameo.
Yep.
It had to be.
Lucas Spoken says fans also really want Star Killer. I know I do. Star Killer is an interesting one because that is a video game character, and I don't know.
We've never seen Dash Rendar, right?
Yeah.
I
mean, he was there in the dark times of people call that era.
Yeah.
But, I think those early 90s, were people call them the dark times, but, there was no negativity. There was zero negativity. So they're not as dark as people,
Right. All right.
Do you guys know that the actor that did Star Killer is in probably more Star Wars than a lot of people? Like even the live action. Whitwer is everything, voice acting and stuff.
Oh, yeah, he's huge, man. I'm really surprised they haven't brought him into the live action by now, to be honest with you. That's kind of surprising. Yeah, I mean, they've got him everywhere else. And stuff. Yeah. All right, so before we get out of here, I did have another question for you guys. So for me, I thought the season ended on kind of a thud. I was really pumped for the show for like the first 5 episodes, maybe 6. I think 6, 7, and 8 were the ones I was like, like I was loving the show when it was like a whodunit, and then when it became more of a, hey, this is the, May OSHA like thing, and then they switched places. I was like, okay, like I don't know. Like to me, it just kind of ended on a dud. Like how did this show go for you guys? Like did AJ? Because I know like you had said that you weren't really into it. Like did the last few episodes like increase your enjoyment of the show? Did it stay the same? Like what? Like how did it land for you?
I'll be honest. This is the first show, the first Star Wars anything where rather than like, oh, I can't wait to rewatch that, I got to see what I missed. It's like, crap, I got a podcast. I should probably watch that again. I was not excited. And I feel like that's why I said I feel like it should have been a movie or longer runtime in the episodes, because this shit of Saul like being on the verge of saying what was important and then, oh, he's stunned, or oh, we got interrupted by a lightsaber battle, or oh, hey, what's that over there?
It took a while.
Oh, it's nothing. Whatever. Like the number of times if he had just said just complete the fucking sentence, like it happened in the last episode too, where he's like, "You and OSHA," and then something else happens. I'm like, you could just like yell it as they're running away.
I'm gonna tell you next episode,
right?
maybe.
I have to admit, I was so strung along. I'm like, the payoff wasn't good enough to drag it out that much.
I did
get
like
to it quicker or make it better. One of the two. Yeah. So
yeah,
you felt like by the end it was kind of running out of steam.
Yeah. I have to agree with you on the cliffhangers because I liked them initially, but then when every damn episode was a cliffhanger, I was just like, oh, come on. Like seriously, like
I kind of like that element.
I liked it, but like for the first few times, and then when every damn episode, it's like
he's going to explain himself to May, and May chooses to electrocute him and run off instead of let him finish his sentence, then electrocute him and run off.
Yeah, of course.
Hey, AJ, I think how you described it is how I felt about Ahsoka, but not with this series. Now, here's the thing with Ahsoka. Me. is this the flavor of the month for me until the next Star Wars movie comes along? It's like when I went to Celebration 5, told my wife, oh, this is the best one ever. Celebration 6, oh, this is the greatest one ever. She's like, you said that about the last one.
Right.
Celebration 7, oh
bias.
my God, it can't be beat, and so I don't know. I like how it ended. It definitely ended with, going back to what we were talking about 10 minutes ago, there is no fucking way they're going to scrap season 2. There's no way. There is, as soon as I saw the back of Yoda's head, I'm like, okay, that answers my question. There is going to be a season 2. Now, if there is not, for some reason or another, which I don't know why there would be, but that would probably be a bigger disappointment than a lot of these shows ending. Obi-Wan, I get it, right? There's only so much to tell.
Yeah.
It's like, as much as I love that show, yeah, season 2 would have been great, but they might have been forcing it at the point, This one, like you said, too much Plagueis, Yoda. There's too much story to be told to not continue it,
Yeah. So what about you, Sherrick? How do you think the arc went? Did it land well for you?
So I go into any Star Wars movie or show with, am I gonna love the main characters, right? Because that's what we're gonna follow throughout the whole saga, series, whatever. With all the movies, always love the main characters, their arc, right? Or at least following them. I feel like at the end of this show, I want to watch Chimere and Plagueis play out. And maybe Venestra and Chimere's relationship there. I don't too much care about May and Osha. And it's not because they're females, because I love Rey. I love Kylo, right? From the minute Force Awakens started, I was like, I'm with Rey. She's dope, right?
Kylo,
and I love
Kylo's
Kylo.
A woman now? The hell Star Wars are you? What? Kylo's a woman now?
What are you talking about?
You just said I love Rey. I love Kylo. You're talking about loving female characters.
No, I'm saying I love the main characters in the new, like all the main characters in most of the movies and shows.
Well, just go ahead
I'm not saying they're both women. I'm saying they're both. I liked Rey.
Go ahead, you biased ass. Go ahead.
Jeez.
No, I get what you're talking about, though.
Sorry, I had to bust balls there a little bit.
I'm not.
Yeah,
too
with
much.
May and Osha, it's like, okay, so except for the mystery of their origin, are they themselves actually compelling characters? And I don't feel like they are.
I wanted to know. I wanted to know how did they get created? Like, I know they gave us a little sprinkling of, well, she used some kind of force magic, right? But I want to know, like, what did she do? Like, did she just, sprinkle some dust on her belly and they split into two? You know what I mean? Like, how did that actually happen? You know what I mean? So I feel like I didn't get enough of that story, and I didn't get enough time with some of these characters to fall in love with them. But because I loved how Chimere was a badass, and I love the story that we know about Plagueis from other stuff that we've heard and seen, I want to see where that Sith story goes and that dark side story goes. I'm not so much concerned with the sisters.
I think you make an awesome point, Sherrick. I really do. It almost, in a way, it kind of feels as the show goes on, it almost feels like May and Osha become more the MacGuffin than like more so. It's like like you said, like you're more interested, Chimere and Plagueis and Soul, and it's like, okay, May and Osha, like, okay, they're a virgin, okay, whatever,
Well,
okay.
Sherrick, to your point about what could be going on with the stranger, maybe he's the Acolyte, so this is actually his story.
That kind of goes to what you said too, John, about the girls being like the red herring. Is that what you're saying, right?
Mm-hmm.
That we actually think
they're more of a thing to be fought over than characters in their own right. Yeah.
That's I like that. That's good one.
Yeah, like the Raiders of the Lost Ark, like the Ark would be the MacGuffin. Yeah. And in this show, I kind of feel like May and Osha kind of fell into that in a weird way, because I was like, okay, well, I kind of know what's going on with them now, so I'm more interested in seeing the other stuff. You know, it was weird.
I mean, it left you with one's mind was practically erased, right? You still had some recollection. And then the other one, that Saul, who was my favorite character in the show that died, she turns to the dark side. So, yeah, I agree with you, Sherrick, that these two characters, I'm not, crazy about finding out what happens to them. I think the bigger picture as a whole is what I'm looking forward to seeing,
Yeah. And I will say one thing, Sherrick, like you had said, you were interested in, you'd like to know more about how they were created. I kind of think that'd be something awesome not to explore, because I think it was already like Anakin was like the Immaculate Conception, whatever.
Okay. I see what you're saying.
And now you've got, I just think, to me, if you start going down that road, whereas I don't have a problem with the whole concept of midichlorians, it would kind of be like that, where so many fans, when they, introduced that concept in episode 1, so many fans threw a fit, like, we don't need to know why the Force works. It just does. Like, the mystery of it makes it cool. Like, and I think this is kind of that, yeah. I mean,
there are some things that less is more, and maybe we don't need to know exactly every single thing. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think the mystery of it's cool because I think once you explain it, then it's like, okay, well, where are the other versions in the galaxy? Like, how many times are they going to bring this up? Like,
maybe the way we think about how it went down is actually cooler than what they would write. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, going back to the head canon, right?
Oh, God, the fans' head canon. Jeez,
that's something I always try my hardest not to do. Is I try not to judge like a movie or a show based on what we didn't get, but rather what we did. Because, everyone writes their own little headcanon, and then if it doesn't play out on screen that way, they're all pissed off, but you might have gotten a good story anyway.
Yeah. Right.
Well, and something that is kind of ties into what we were talking about earlier of how maybe or maybe not the show changed a little bit over the course of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like how you said, AJ, about how it was Kill Bill and Frozen, right? I feel like you still could have had that story, but it been a mostly Sith story. I feel like there was way more Jedi story in this than I thought there was going to be. And I actually fell in love with the Jedi characters. And then when they got killed so quick, I was pissed off.
Yeah. That's, I don't know. I'm still thinking of headcanon, because every time that concept comes up, I just get angry all over again.
Sorry to do that.
No, it's not. When you see these people, like, it's not canon. It's not canon. Yes, it fucking is. You don't get to say what's canon, asshole. Your name isn't Disney, so piss off. I hate that. Oh God, I hate that so much. I hate it so much. Like, go away with that. It's not canon crap. I can't stand that.
Everybody's a critic, I know. Everybody's a critic, man.
Admittedly, I did it to myself again today. Like, I try so hard to stay out of comment sections, because I know it's just gonna, only pain will you find. If into the comment sections you go, only pain will you find. And I won't do it. And every once in a while, I accidentally click into it, and it's just, oh my God, does it suck me in? I'm like, why do I do this to myself? You are so stupid. Like, at this point, it's not their fault; it's your fault.
What do you call those people? Well, the Cubs fans were known as that. The people that love to be miserable and feel the pain. What's it called?
Gluttons for punishment. Yes. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Funny.
That Jag group, man. Yeah, it's not going to be good at all.
Yeah. It's, oh my God. So, all right.
People got to realize that Star Wars and any franchise they love, it's a lot like this Lego collection behind me. We're like, those pieces arrived in a box to build that thing. You don't have to, though. Like, if you don't like it, you don't have to. It's the same way with Star Wars. You got all these pieces of story and all these characters and stuff. And if you don't like the way they told a story with the characters you love, then come up with your own. Or like we were talking about earlier, there's a Legends book that probably covers it differently or whatever. So this whole like canon versus not canon, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. There's no such thing as canon or no canon. It's canon, God damn it. If it ends up on the screen, it's canon. I don't want some dummy in a chat thinking, I don't like it, so it's not canon. Well, fuck you.
No, my point is that if you don't like the way Disney told that story, then just don't worry about it. Let Disney tell their version of the story. And if you decide that you like, the Darth Plagueis novel versus whatever they're going to canonize him into in season 2 of The Acolyte, fine, then hang on to Darth Plagueis the novel. And don't worry about the Disney Plus show that runs up against it.
All right. I'm just saying, you know how I feel about that stuff, man.
Look, in a franchise this large, like we were talking about, like, did you like the show? Did you not like the show? Personally, didn't like it. Didn't like it.
We all know there's one thing John would remove from.
And you know what? You're allowed to like and not like what you want. It doesn't mean that someone else isn't allowed to have a different opinion on the matter.
No, I agree with that completely. It's just these people that try to define what canon is because of their. It's like you can't. It just is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like saying, well, I think orange and brown is an ugly color combination, so that's not the Cleveland Browns colors to me. Well, I don't give a shit what you think. That's the goddamn colors. You can't change it. Like I don't want to hear your whining and bitching. It's orange and brown. Deal with it. Whether or not, like Ahsoka didn't like it. Rebels couldn't stand it. Am I sitting here going, that doesn't count? It's not canon. Like, no, it's just a part of the property I didn't enjoy. I'm not going to go changing it in my head. To where Ezra Bridger's not a whiny piece of crap, and they don't have like stupid, horrific ass goddamn space whales in some stupid romper room looking time travel bullshit world between worlds. I'm not doing that. I'm just going, I don't like it. But I'm not discounting the fact that it's canon. It's just a part of canon I don't happen to enjoy.
Yeah.
I mean,
and you're not out there starting these ultra negative chats.
Exactly.
That's the difference. That's the difference, right? It's like, if you don't like something, like you guys said, don't watch it. But some of these people take it to the next level and they just fucking trash it
fire Kathleen Kennedy and blah blah blah.
Yeah. All that shit. And it's like, well, and like John, like you said, they don't give a fuck what people don't like.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what's crazy is just a year or two ago, even actually more than that, people were like, they need to get her out of there and get Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau in control of everything. Well, guess who is in control of releasing the Acolyte?
Yeah.
Dave Filoni. Who released Ahsoka? Dave Filoni. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, come on, man. Like, if you don't like it, don't watch it. It's just that simple.
Yeah, and to your point, Shirk, what's funny to me, people that say that is they're the same people that complain about the prequel saying, well, George Lucas surrounded himself with nothing but yes men. He needed someone to tell him when ideas were bad. Okay.
You're right, John. You're right.
Like Dave Filoni, seriously, Dave Filoni, like not everything Dave Filoni's done is perfect. So, but they want that same situation. They want the whole yes man thing. It's like, well, no, because then you do get stuff like all kidding aside, like the Purgle and, like World Between Worlds and, things like that, like things that just don't make sense. Like, because there's not somebody there to go, hey, this is dumb. So, I don't know.
Yeah, love it or hate it. I'll end with this thought. They took a swing. This is something outside the Skywalker saga. They're finally like stepping outside of the shadow of everything must revolve around Anakin and Luke. And good, then the franchise dies if it just keeps spitting out stuff that connects to episodes 1 through 9 and nothing else.
Yeah.
Well, so. And I think it's cool that they're playing out this enormous story. I mean, eventually it'll tie back in, to the Skywalker saga. But I mean, I think we've seen it going for a while now. All this crap that ties back to cloning somehow, and the different variations of, the dark side and the light side, and that that there's little bits of both in each, and so it's cool. I think it's awesome how they're doing it, and so I mean,
how hard it must be to try to a fan base as big as Star Wars to try to make all of us happy and bring in new fans. You know what I mean? So there's going to be. It's like I said with the new trilogy, right? The sequel trilogy. There's people that's their Star Wars. The prequels, that's their Star Wars. There's somebody that watched this show that's like, that's the shit. I love that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that's all you can ask for, man. Like, not everybody's going to love everything. And take what you love from it and then move on to the next show, which we got in a few months.
Yep. Totally agree. All right, guys.
And crew, really? Yeah.
Yes.
If it ever exists, I'm not convinced.
Yeah. That's going to be an interesting one because, well, I mean, that's a whole nother show, but yeah, I'll be interested to see how that one turns out because that concept didn't grab me at all when they kind of explained it at Celebration. I was like, really? Okay.
It might be more for kids.
Yeah,
something completely different.
Yeah, exactly right. Monty Python again. There we go. All right, so Sherrick and Cris, thanks for hanging out. I'm gonna put you guys in the green room, and we'll talk to you for a second after we go off air here. But
thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah,
Sherrick,
man, thanks for joining us, guys.
Yeah, it's always great, man. Appreciate it.
And Cris, before we let you go, why don't you promote that little show that you have, Machtails from the Cantina, and your awesome Patreon content?
Well, I got to tell you, man, I'm a little jealous because Sean Hines has chimed in tonight. He never watches Mocktails from the Cantina unless he's on it.
Oh, shots fired.
We do have our, and it's an honor to break my season 1 verbiage, if you will, on your show. Because I have not even done one for Mocktails yet. We're doing it this Friday on YouTube. Mocktails Live, we're going to do a season 1 recap as well. And for those of you that love Star Wars, head over to YouTube, type in Mocktails from the Cantina, go to Amazon, The Force Among Us, The Force Within Us, all those documentaries that hopefully you have seen several times by now. Like you guys
purchased several times.
Yes. And, you know, I'm on Amazon, I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, and, you know, I roll what you smoke and vice versa, man. So thanks for having me on. Sorry about my tardiness here, my lateness here.
What time's your show on Friday there?
Yeah.
We're shooting for 7 p.m. Central. That could change, but that's what we're going for right now.
Right.
Well, is this the point where we said you were shooting for 7 p.m. Central tonight too? So
right. Could be, yes. Could be. I was cramming too much shit in one day, and it's not realistic.
That's awesome. Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on, dude. It is always a blast having you on. You have such a great perspective, and it's, man, the conversation, we could go for hours and hours with you, man. So
well, hey, I love you guys, and thanks for having me on the show as always. Thank you so much.
No problem. We'll see you in the green room in just a second.
See you, man.
Yeah, man. Good to see you.
So there goes Cris and Sherrick. Always love having those guys on, man. It's fun to get other people's perspective. You know, you and I talk Star Wars and nerd stuff all the time. So getting somebody else to kind of, you know, jump in and throw in some fresh opinions in there is always good. As always, thank you to everybody in the chat tonight. Zach Pointer, good to see you, man. Lucas Spoken, Sean Hines, Kale McLeish, appreciate you guys. Yeah, that was cool, dude. It's an interesting show. I have to admit that I thought that I was going to like it more when it ended. The way it started, I was loving it, and I really enjoyed it. I really like it, and I would definitely rewatch it. But it was like way in the top for me when it started, and then it kind of got a little bit less as it went on. But I still really like it. So I thought it was a good show. I know that for you, it's it's like Ahsoka for me. But you'll have those, and as we've said so many times on the show, dude, it's good to have stuff like this because even if we don't like it, it opens doors for something we might like or that somebody else might like, you know. So I thought it was cool,
and I can still recognize at least the good points of it. So there are a lot of points that you guys brought up tonight, actually, that, you know, upon retrospect, I'm like, yeah, that was really cool, actually.
Yeah.
So, you know, maybe it's just that, you know, middle-aged bias of ours where anything new, we instantly view it with skepticism, and then we have to just like adapt to it, you know.
and I'm like, you know, an overgrown man child, and instead there's me. It's like, it's new Star Wars. It's cool. I tend not to nitpick until way down the road when I've seen it about 8,000 freaking times. So
yeah,
you know. But
I was waiting for Pip to get reset though.
I know, right?
Guy.
Pip is cool, man. We didn't even mention Pip tonight. That sucks.
No, man, he got a factory reset in turn. So apparently he's a shithead if he's factory reset. He has to be programmed to be a good guy.
Yeah. Well, what about Basil, like screwing up the ships going into the Rings of Saturn looking thing? I'm like, what the hell is he doing? I didn't understand that. We forgot to mention that too. But oh well, the big gerbil. He was kind of a douchebag one part, so whatever. All right. So, anyways, guys, thanks again for tuning in to another episode of the Nerf Herder Council. We have got to figure something out for the next show. If you would like to get a guest host or something, because I have a gig.
Wait a minute. Yes. Wait a minute. The next show is Deadpool.
I know. The next show is
going to see Deadpool and Wolverine. You're not going to be available for our show?
No, we might have to bump it up a day.
Okay. Pulling the curtain back, guys. This is news to me. He's just breaking this news right now on the air to me, his co-host.
Oh, wait a minute. No, wait a minute. I'm wrong. I was thinking my other show is on Thursday. No, we're good. We're good. Never mind. I didn't say anything. I didn't say shit. I sorry.
You're killing me, Smalls.
Dump out. Jesus. I'm sorry. That's my fault. I was thinking Thursday. Because anyway, we're fine. So the next show is going to be on Wednesday, July 31st, and we will be talking all things Deadpool trilogy. As AJ mentioned, we will have seen Deadpool and Wolverine, so we will have perspective on the new movie for you. So it will be spoilerific. So if you have not seen the movie by that time, don't watch the episode. But we will be talking both of the first two Deadpool movies as well as the new one. So that will be on Wednesday, July 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, guys, as usual, we are brought to you by Audible. Go to audibletrial.com/NHC for your 30-day trial and a free audiobook download. And, of course, our recommendation
of Darth Plagueis.
Yes, exactly. Of Plagueis. Download Plagueis. It is a phenomenal book. So make sure you check that one out. If you'd like to get customizable Nerf Herder Council swag, just go to shop.nerfherdercouncil.com. And if you'd like to get virtual Cantina network gear, go to tpublic.com/user/virtual-cantina. So, guys, again, we will see you in 2 weeks on Wednesday, July 31st at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, talking all things Deadpool. Until then, I'm your host, JT, at Dogpound Jedi. He is AJ.
At Drake Adams 579.
And we will catch you guys later.
This bucket of bolts is never gonna get us past that blockade.
This bucket's got a few surprises left in her. Plus, me and Chewie are on it. Ain't that right, Chewie?
Hell yeah, you my Nerf herder.
You my Nerf herder.